Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Stretch your memory. What was he wearing when they brought him in? Do you recall?
That was quite some time ago.
Was he dressed like a priest?
Like a priest?
Were there any signs of injuries? Blood, lacerations?
That would be in the file.
It is not in the file! It is not!
All Horror October continues here on The Pint, and we are talking about a film that is celebrating its 35th anniversary. 35 years. And its star passed away, the Manster told me, 26 years to the date that me and him separately watched the film for this episode.
Yeah.
So 26 years prior, the star of the film passed away. Let's get into it. Let's talk all about The Exorcist III.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
And I'm Mike Field. Hey, what's up?
What's going on, Mike? Before we get into The Exorcist III, let's talk a little bit about Mike Field, the filmmaker. Because Mike, he's not just the host of Forgotten Cinema, as you guys all know.
The host.
Butler's been left on an island somewhere. The host, and Butler is like the sidekick. Mike's a writer and a filmmaker. And this past weekend of us recording this, CT Horror Fest happened. And they had a film festival called the Connecticut Frights Film Festival, where they showed 11 short films and had a little bit of an award ceremony at the end and a whole bunch of stuff. I showed up as a volunteer on Saturday morning. So the show is Saturday and Sunday. I show up Saturday morning, and Scary Larry Dwyer, who is one of the guys in charge of CT Horror Fest, along with Caprolozzi's, looks at me and goes, I didn't think you were supposed to be here today. I thought you were only here Sunday. And I said, Larry, I was only here Sunday in the May show, which was 3 months ago. I said, I told you I could do the whole weekend here. He goes, well, I have you not set up with anybody. I went, okay. He goes, I'm going to have you work the merch table. And I'm like, shit, I work a retail job. I just took a weekend off to volunteer for something, and I'm working the merch table. But then he said to me, we are looking for somebody to run the film festival. And I said, just tell me how to do it and what you want me to do, and I'll do it. So I got to see, for the best part, I got to see most of the 11 short films that were presented. And one of them was from our very own friend here, Mike Field. Tell them all about the film that you put in and the award you won. Because you won one of the, I think 5 awards?
Yes, second runner-up. Right. Third place. Woo! Show. Win place and show. Yeah, we won show. So the short film's called Noparapo, and it is based on a Japanese folk tale about a faceless woman that is in the folk tale. She's on the side of the road by running water. That's why the water's in the short there. And somebody goes to help her, sees that she is faceless, and basically is haunted by her throughout the night until ultimately he is captured by her. So we shot that. We actually shot that March of 2020. And I think I've told you this. We wrapped that Sunday, and the next day, pandemic, quarantine. We were all shut down. We were like, so it was like, oh, we're going to edit this. And then it was like, nobody stay at home. We're like, oh, we're not going to edit this right away. So it took a year to kind of get everyone together, put the edit together. And I've been sending it out. It's been in, this was probably the last festival I had entered into, because it's been in about 8 or 9 other ones, across the country. It's done well. It's got honorable mentions here and there. But yeah, so my buddy was like, "Hey, Connecticut Horror Fest is happening. It's a Connecticut Film Festival. You're a Connecticut filmmaker. You should submit it." So I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's go." And then and it was what's funny is I knew you were volunteering at the Connecticut Horror Fest. I knew that there were people involved that I kind of know, not like just know the name. Oh yeah. I never put two and two together until I think like I saw one of your posts or like, oh, you're volunteer, whatever it was. And I was just like, oh wait, yeah, okay. That makes a lot more sense that yes. Okay. So it was really cool that I knew you were going to be there. And I made a point with my buddy Pat to like try to find you. I didn't realize you were going to be doing the festival. So that was even better. So yeah, so those festivals are weird, because I like telling stories. I like making short films and whatnot, but it's much like many creators. It's very difficult to take like that, not the praise, but just kind of like be like, yeah, like talk about the work. It's just very odd and awkward. I know I've gotten better, but it always just feels weird, but it was cool. It was a really cool thing. And it was a big room, which is nice. But yeah, it was cool. It was fun. I mean, did you like it? I mean, all the ones I saw were pretty cool. Not that you have to give me like what you hated and didn't like, but that was pretty cool. The 11 film, what I saw was good.
I mean, just like anything else, I think some were better than others, clearly.
Sure.
But I think, not to sound like I'm towing a line, because I have no reason to, but I mean, it's incredible for anybody to put anything like that together. Right. So yeah, I mean, 11 short films. There were some that I felt were more professionally made, some that had better concepts, some that had better acting, some that had better effects, but it was cool to see them all, to the point where I actually was able to take a copy of it home. So,
nice.
Yeah. So Lloyd, if you want to check them out, I can let you borrow them. It's like a 2-hour block.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of them are shorter than, like, Mike's was actually one of the shorter ones. Like, what was that? Like maybe 8 or 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Yeah.
Some of them were like 20 minutes. Some were 15. Yeah. So it was very cool. And, not just because you're a friend, but I did enjoy yours quite a bit, and you definitely deserve some praise for that, because
thank you.
It was a very cool concept. It has I don't want to give the ending away, but it's got a very memorable, like, last bit to it. Now, if someone wants to watch that and I can't lend it to them, where could they find it?
So it is on, it's actually, I guess it's a hidden link. It's on my personal website, michaeldfield.com. But if you go / and you just type in Nopperabo, which is Nopperabo, I think it's -BO. It'll pop up. I should make it live. The movie's there. There's like stills there. There's write-ups about it. So I had made its own page when I was submitting it, because it was like a page I was submitting. So you can find it there. It's on my YouTube channel. Honestly, if you know me, just shoot me an email or message. I'll send you the link. I had it up there, and I don't know why I never made it public or anything like that. But just hit me up and I'll send you the link.
I think it's kind of, I don't know if the word is ironic or coincidental that, like, your current short for your latest episode, or at least last week's episode, is all about you guys being an award-winning podcast. And
yes. Oh, yeah. We are so meta, John. We are so meta. Well, what's funny is that's because of the People's Choice Award that's coming out.
Right.
We were top 10. Yeah. So that comes out next week in terms of what do we won. We don't know if we won. Anything that's happening in our universe, it's fodder for us to make fun of and make fun of ourselves. So that's usually what happens. I usually like, oh wait, we did talk about that. Let's put it in there. That whole fake it till you make it kind of vibe. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So at the end of the episode, we'll give you out more information about Forgotten Cinema. And of course, the fact that since this is spooky season and October is running, we are in Forgotten Horror 7.
We are.
So they're doing something very similar as to what we do all month long, all horror stuff. I just got my shirt in the mail yesterday. So I'm
nice.
That. Yeah.
Butler was asking me about that. He wanted to make sure you got it and that it fit and all that stuff. So
all good. I'll probably wear it tomorrow and put up an Instagram selfie, which
nice.
I like to do with t-shirts. All right, let's get into The Exorcist Part 3. All right, Exorcist 3 came out on August 17th of 1990, as I mentioned, 35 years ago. Written and directed by William Peter Blatty. Now, you might know that name. Here's the reason why. He wrote the Exorcist novel, the original Exorcist novel. He wrote a novel called Crazy, and he wrote a novel called Legion, which is what this movie's based on, and I'll give you more information on that in a second. Screenplay-wise, he wrote a film called Darling Lily, a film called Gun with 2 N's, and The Great Bank Robbery. This movie was filmed all over DC, Georgetown especially, because that is the setting of the original Exorcist. It's the setting of this one as well. Hollywood Center Studios and Screen Gem Studios in North Carolina. Filmed between June and August of 89. Real quick, like 2-month filming, but there's a ton of like reshooting and moving around. Now, before I get into all the stuff here, I want to say this. Monday night, me and my girlfriend watched the director's cut, what's called the director's cut of this film. It was not put together by William Peter Blatty. It was put together by people that were familiar with the original script, and there was a lot of stuff shot that's not in the ending cut, and vice versa. There's stuff that's shot in the theatrical cut that's not in the original. So we watched that. That cut is on the Scream Factory 2016 set. A lot of that, the footage was missing and found later. So it's one of those ones, if you've ever seen something where like much grainier, shittier footage is inserted in, there's a lot of that. And then last night we watched the theatrical cut, which I've seen. I saw this in the movies. So I've seen it in the movies. I saw it. Scary Larry showed it a few years ago. I've seen it multiple times. I can definitely tell you it is very interesting. Did either of you guys watch both versions?
No.
I watched the Tubi version.
Okay.
Whatever version that is, probably the original cut.
Yeah. So yours didn't have scenes where it was much grainier or like the aspect ratio changed.
No, I don't remember that. No.
Yeah,
The
okay.
biggest difference is the exorcism scene at the end.
Yeah. Was there an exorcism scene?
There is.
Okay.
Then you watch the theatrical.
You watched the theatrical cut.
Okay.
All right. So William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, and William Peter Blatty came together and were planning on making this a sequel to The Exorcist. The Exorcist 2 had already happened, but they worked on this together. Blatty wrote out a screenplay, but Friedkin, creative differences dropped out. So Blatty, now at the point where he couldn't find a director he wanted to do this, and he actually wanted to direct it but couldn't get funding, he turned the screenplay for The Exorcist III into the 1983 novel called Legion. That novel became a New York Times bestseller, and that was that. Years later, he decided to readapt his novel into a screenplay. He wanted to direct it himself, but they weren't giving him the opportunity, so he went to several different people. John Carpenter collaborated with William Peter Blatty. Now, one of the biggest things about his screenplay, and that he was adamant against, was there is no exorcism in his screenplay. John Carpenter tried to tell him, there's got to be an exorcism in a movie called The Exorcist. And he said, no, there doesn't. Eventually, when John Carpenter left, he was given the reins to direct. Okay? So he's given the reins to direct, but eventually along the lines, after filming is completed, I think it was Morgan Creek head James Robinson told him, we have to have an exorcism. They did a couple of test screenings, or one, I think, of the original version, and people were like, they couldn't even figure out how this connected to The Exorcist. There's no exorcism in it. And apparently James Robinson's secretary kept on saying to him, you can't have an exorcist movie without an exorcism. So eventually they went and they reshot a bunch of stuff. So the reshot ending was made to include the exorcism scene and the Father Mourning character. He is not in the Legion version. So the director's cut that I watched opens up with, instead of William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist III, it's William Peter Blatty's Legion. That was the name of the book, and that was the name of the original screenplay, and that's what he wanted to call it. That character's not in that movie at all. And then, I don't know how far Lloyd got in the cast, so I'll say it here. In the original version, and this is very bizarre, in my opinion, but in the original version, so we know that Jason Miller played Damien Karras in the first movie. Lee J. Cobb played Kinderman in the first movie. Lee J. Cobb died. Jason Miller apparently had a pretty bad alcohol problem. So they recast Karras with Brad Dourif. There's a scene in the beginning of Legion where Kinderman and his friend, Father Dyer, are sitting in a restaurant eating, and they look at a picture on the wall of a bunch of priests together, and one of them is Brad Dourif. And then as you start to go through the movie, you start to realize that they're treating the Brad Dourif character as if he is Karras, just recast. Okay. In the version we watched, the theatrical one, Brad Dourif specifically plays the Gemini killer only. So The two things that were different were they added the exorcism and the Father Morning character. After Brad Dourif did this entirely large role, they let him go and brought Jason Miller in to replay the role all over again. But as they filmed, they realized that Jason Miller's alcoholism was making it where he could not remember lines and he was having a hard time. So they brought Brad Dourif back to supplement the part. It sounds confusing. So Brad Dourif played Karis in the first movie, who was possessed supposedly by the Gemini killer. In the second version, I'm sorry, not in the first movie, in the original cut of this. In the second version, Jason Miller physically plays Karis, who supposedly has been dead for 15 years. But in certain scenes, he is not transformed, but we as the audience are supposed to see him as the Gemini killer who is living in the body of Karis. So it sounds confusing. I definitely suggest, if you guys or anybody out there hasn't seen them, watch both versions if you can. Even though a lot of it is the same, there's a lot of things that are different, and it makes it interesting. Brad Dourif's performance in the original version is awesome. He's in a lot more of it. We only get one kind of prolonged scene with him in this, and it's longer. It's a bit better. But I just wanted to lay all that out there. So those are the big differences between the two. Yeah, you got to check it out. Manster, that's everything kind of for production that I have. We'll get into the movie and talk about differences a little bit more. Why don't you tell us about the cast?
Bring me everyone. What do you mean, everyone?
Well, we have George C. Scott as Lieutenant William F. Kinderman. He elevates this movie quite a bit, as does Mike Field for this podcast.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Stage and film star. This guy was born on his kitchen table of where his family lived. He was a Marine. He went to the University of Miami, won 2 Golden Globes, 2 Emmys. He won the Oscar for Patton for Best Actor, but he declined it. I guess he was the first actor to decline it, having already warned the Academy that he was going to do that because he believed that performances cannot be compared to other performances. So you'll remember him from Patton, obviously The Hustler, Dr. Strangelove. One of my favorites, The Changeling.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that.
Yeah, you got to see that. The 1997 version of 12 Angry Men, which, by the way, I said I would watch it. I started, but I couldn't finish it. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I love the first one better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. All right, so then we have Ed Flanders as Father Joseph Dyer. He's also an Army veteran, Broadway actor. He played Dr. Donald Westfall in St. Elsewhere.
Yeah, I remembered it. My mom used to watch St. Elsewhere. And I think he has a perm in this movie.
Yes,
yeah,
I believe
he has
so.
a perm, yeah.
I don't think that's his natural hair. He played Harry Truman like more than anyone, apparently, in multiple movies. So it must have been a dead ringer for Truman.
He's got them Betty Truman eyes.
Yeah. He was also in Blatty's Ninth Configuration. He played Lieutenant Brickler in the first episode of MASH. I guess he was a documentarian, but it seems like they just abandoned that character in the show.
He's like Richie Cunningham's brother Chuck. He goes upstairs and never comes back again. Yeah.
Yeah. Who was the actor who played that? We just talked about it.
We just talked about that. It was the guy from Death Wish 3.
Shit, which guy though?
The bad guy, the tall redhead guy with the stupid haircut.
Yeah, whatever his name is, I can't remember.
Oh, I don't remember his name either. Chuck from Happy Days.
Yeah. Oh, it was that Irish dude.
O'Harley. Yeah, O'Harley.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right, problem solved. He also played Dr. Bill Norton in the 1979 miniseries Salem's Lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we have Jason Miller, as we were just talking about, as Patient X / Damien Karras. He was also an actor, a playwright. He won a 1973 Pulitzer for drama and a Tony Award for the best play for that championship season.
I've heard of that, never seen it.
Never saw it. Also, he is nominated for an Academy Award for The Exorcist for Best Supporting Actor. He is the father of actor Jason Patrick.
Yeah, Jason Patrick.
Yeah. Yep.
And the kid from Near Dark. can't remember. I never remember his name, but the kid vampire.
The little kid?
That's Jason Miller's other son.
Yeah, they mentioned his other son, but I recognize his name. And now,
Yeah.
I know exactly who you mean. Also, he was in the movie Rudy.
That's right. He was the coach. Yeah. Who gave Rudy a chance. Yeah.
Then we have Scott Wilson as Dr. Temple. He's the psychiatric ward doctor. He's been in a lot of films. Also, I think his debut was The Heat of the Night. He was in Cold Blood, The Great Gatsby, Dead Man Walking, Pearl Harbor. Also in The Ninth Configuration. And I think most well known probably for playing Herschel Green on the AMC show The Walking Dead.
He smokes a cigarette like nobody else in this movie.
Oh, so many cigarettes.
He's always, his hand's always like this in the entire movie up to his face.
Yeah, the whole time, right there, scrunched right up. Also was in CSI and had a lead role in the Netflix show The OA, which I think I saw a couple of episodes. But
I saw that. I watched that season. It's really odd.
Next, we have Brad Dourif as James Veneman / the Gemini Killer. He was Oscar nominated as his role of Billy Bibbit in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, coming soon to a podcast near you. Also, in the Lord of the Rings series, he voiced Chucky in Child's Play, and he got an Emmy for Doc Cochran in Deadwood.
Yeah. Did you notice that his last line before he falls asleep, when Kinderman's in that long scene where Kinderman's interviewing him or talking to him, he falls asleep and he says Child's Play, and then the next scene's a redhead kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think William Peter Blatty probably has much of a taste for that kind of stuff. I just thought it was a weird coincidence, but it's pretty funny.
Well, when did Child's Play come out though?
88.
Late 80s? Was
it
88? Wow.
2 years before this. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not put that past them. That's pretty fun. Then we have Grand L. Bush.
I love this guy.
Sergeant Mel Atkins. He's the African-American sergeant partnering with Kinderman. He was in Roots. He was in the rock musical Hair for you lovers of the 70s stuff. He was in The Color Purple, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, lots of stuff. Forrest Gump, Good Times, the TV show.
My favorite part about Grand L. Bush is if you look him up on IMDb or Wikipedia, one of the two, his profile picture is him inside of his swimming pool, like up against the wall, and he's in a swimming pool smiling. I'm like, that guy knows how to live.
That's living. Boy, there's so many more. I'm going to try and go quickly. Nicole Williamson, Nicol, and I think he's got a first name too, but it's not listed here. As Father Paul Morning, he is the white-haired father performing The Exorcist and the Exorcism in the end. He was described as the greatest actor since Brando and touched by genius. Yeah, I was touched by a genius once. Anyway.
Your uncle was a genius?
He was in The Goodbye Girl, Black Widow, the one with Deborah Winger, not the other one. He played Merlin in Excalibur, and I can totally picture him as that.
Oh, yeah.
And Cagliostro in Spawn.
Oh, fuck, yeah. I saw Spawn once. It sucked, but I remember he's Cagliostro, yeah.
Cagliostro, yeah. Then Nancy Fish, who probably no one knows, but she plays Nurse Emily Allerton, the very smug nurse. She was in The Mask, Sudden Impact, Death Becomes Her. What do you got to say about her?
So, because she's, character actress, and she's in a million things, and she plays just such a hard ass in this movie, and,
yeah,
older woman and everything. She was 52 when they made this.
Oh, my goodness.
5'2". She looks 69. She's 5'2".
George, they're older back then. We age better now, John.
Yeah, I think we do. I actually, my girlfriend had shown me a video. We watched a video about like movie stars and TV stars through the ages and how it's true. Like,
absolutely,
it's true. Like 52 now is Tom Cruise. Well, he's 60, but like it's much different than it was back then. Wilford Brimley in The Thing, 46. It's crazy.
I know that Hollywood now has a lot of help. A lot of help with those aging. Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Let's see. I'm going to skip that one and that one. Tyra Farrell as Nurse Blaine. She's the African-American nurse. She was in Boys in the Hood, Jungle Fever, White Men Can't Jump. the TV show Empire.
I totally recognized her. I
Yeah.
couldn't tell what from, but I recognized her. She's only in that
Yeah.
one scene, I think, when George C. Scott, get out or whatever. He's always yelling.
He's always screaming something.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to just blast through a few of them that were, some people just were like little cameos. Some were just playing themselves. You got Samuel L. Jackson as the blind dream man. You got C. Everett Koop as himself. You've got Larry King as himself, I think in a diner. You got Patrick Ewing as the Angel of Death, and you've got Fabio as some random angel.
I was trying to think of the connections with some of these. Like Samuel L. Jackson obviously had been a working actor at this point, although he's dubbed in this movie. That is not his voice. But I was like, Patrick Ewing, but then I remembered he went to Georgetown.
Yeah.
And I wondered, I think that was during his professional career, but I just wondered if, Fabio, I don't know. I think they just said, this guy's good looking or 1990 good looking. Let's get him in there. But I was like, why is Patrick Ewing the Angel of Death? And I think also I read, I don't remember who it was. I didn't write it down, but like they keep going back to that like weird band of like three people. It's like, they look like they might be men dressed as women. That's an actual band, I think that, and I didn't write it down. I should have, but so there was more people in there. And we see a couple of the victims at one point. You could tell because they have their heads sewn on.
Yeah, the stapled necks.
Yeah. All right. Mike Field, tell everybody out there what the beginning of The Exorcist 3 is all about.
Well, my first note is because they take a shot of the steps. I'm like, these goddamn steps again. It's basically following our George C. Scott character, our Kinderman character. I guess he has that vision of the young black boy that he knows that's from part of their police outreach program, which when they do that shot, when they go down and he sees them, the kid's right there, then he keeps walking, they made that kid run the block around.
Yeah.
Like to be there at the end of the walk when he's got the rose. I'm like, he's not like, I'm waiting for him to see him like sweating and hey. So anyways, we kind of follow his character. There's a murder. We kind of, it kind of starts off like a little bit like a detective story. You know what I mean? Like, we're there for, obviously it's The Exorcist 3, but there's really not a lot in the beginning with the exception of some of the music, the stuff in the church a little bit. When they find they find the priest dead, and maybe like 10, 15 minutes later, that it kind of starts kicking into like what we kind of know from the last movie or the last couple movies. So it's basically starts off like a detective story. And now we've got George C. Scott. And then I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, I'm sitting trying to figure out, okay, right. He's playing the guy from the first film, but we've recast. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And we recast the father character because he's from the first film as well. These are the two characters that end the first movie walking together and going to the movies. There's a line later in the movie. So we did The Exorcist here, I think at the end of 23. I have not seen it since then, so I forget some things. I mean, I've seen it before, but there's a line in this movie where Kinderman is telling his partner, Grandel Bush, about Karras, and he's like, he was my best friend. Didn't they meet on that case?
Yes. Yeah. That's not, I had that same note. He's like, he's my best friend. When? Since when?
Right. They literally had a conversation about like the movies. And yeah, if you've never seen the original Exorcist, Kinderman is the cop who's kind of like involved in what's going on, but always on the outskirts. He's not in the room during the exorcism. I think he ends up with the mother maybe at the very end, like when everything's going down, but he's kind of a ancillary character who's left behind along with Father Dyer. So we're 15 years later, and now these two characters have bonded over their mutual loss of Damien Karras. And yeah, the line of them being really good friends, but like, Kinderman says to his wife and Dyer says to other guys in his Paco priests, whatever you would call that, fatherhood, convent.
No,
yeah,
comments and nuns. Comments for nuns. Rectory.
Rectory. He's like, they each kind of say like how they're trying to keep each other cheered up because it's the day of 15 years later. It's the day that Damien Karras, if you haven't seen the first movie, I'm going to spoil it for you. At the end of the movie, the little girl is possessed by Pazuzu, who's pretending to be the devil, and Father Karras basically goads it into him and then suicides and somehow supposedly kills or at least takes the brunt of the of the possession, and then kills himself to drive this thing out into the ether. I never understood why it couldn't just fly back up into the window, right back into her again. But I think it's supposed to be maybe his purity did something or whatever. Manster, we have a bunch of murders going on.
Yeah. So the motif of the murders is there's a victim, their head is lopped off. It's replaced by like a head of Jesus from a statue, and they're basically exsanguinated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the little black boy who's the first victim, he's killed. His head's chopped off. There's nails hammered into his eyes.
Oh, yeah. What'd they call it?
Ingots.
Ingots in his eyes.
And then he's given a Jesus statue head, but then that's made into blackface, which, obviously.
No, he said that. They don't show it.
They don't show it.
Yeah.
They don't show it. We also learn a little bit later on, Mike, this comes up in a bit, but we'll just talk about it now, that there are things that tie these murders to a 15-year-old case that was actually in San Francisco. Here's a note I had. Why does Kinderman know so much about that case over in San Francisco? He knows everything about it. But what is the case? Who was the murderer? And what are the things that we find out are similar to that stuff?
Well, the Gemini killer is who they're referring to, who's supposed to be the Zodiac, I guess. I guess that's kind of like their Zodiac. But I don't know when we find out, but when Kinderman's talking about the facts of the case that came out, they're different from what really happened in terms of they say that it was the middle finger on the left hand or the right hand that was removed. And they carve the symbol of the Gemini, the astrology symbol of the Gemini in the back, but when in reality it's the pointed finger of the right hand that's removed. Symbol is carved into the left palm. So that's kind of like what you find out in this, and so that's what's happening to these people that have been murdered in DC, and he's connecting it to that case in Richmond. He says Richmond, but we're saying San Francisco because he keeps saying Richmond.
Yeah, well, because he, at one point when the Gemini killer, supposedly, if it's a Gemini killer or not, is talking to Kinderman about one of his victims, he says he killed her by the Golden Gate Bridge. And then then Kinderman says again later something about San Francisco. So, I mean, again, if it was like the Zodiac, it would be a well-known case, and I think that's what it was supposed to be. In real life, I think this is interesting. A very real and very creepy factoid about this movie is that apparently Jeffrey Dahmer would show his victims this movie before he killed them.
He's a big fan.
Oh, shit.
Because the guy who survived, like the last victim that was taken but survived, said that he made him watch this. He would recite the lines spoken by the Gemini killer. And then apparently he also had a pair of yellow contact lenses he would wear, because there's a scene in this where Gemini killer Karras's eyes are supernaturally yellow. So there's some weird stuff there too, along with that.
Dahmer's weird.
Oh yeah. Everything about that guy. Everything about that. So we have all these murders happening now. We get the little boy. We eventually get a priest who gets killed in a confessional booth. That scene's very creepy. Just the way
Carey Jr.
Was that who that was?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I saw his name in the credits, but just the way the voice, which sounds like a little old lady, is kind of talking to him, and then that's actually who says it. He says, I killed her by the Golden Gate. And it's just very creepy scene where he starts to show this fear because the killer has talking about the 17 victims. It's pretty creepy. Eventually Kinderman, who has this relationship, as I said, with Father Dyer ends up going into the hospital, and Kinderman visits him. Yes,
but
Master.
First, you have to tell the carp story. While we see these two guys are bonding and friends, and they have this just face-to-face story, right, about Kinderman's telling him that there's a carp swimming in his bathtub at home because his wife is afraid of the toxins that are in fish, so she likes to buy them live.
His mother-in-law.
His mother-in-law.
Yeah, she likes to buy the fish live because of the impurities. So he said it's dinner Tuesday. They don't say what day it is, but he's like, that fish has been in my bathtub for 3 days. If you're standing close to me, I know you know because I haven't bathed in 3 days.
I haven't had a bath in 3 days. Like you don't take a shower?
Yeah.
There's not showers at the precinct?
Yeah. So he's just raw dogging it. Field, you kind of said something, and I want to ask you because, you know, we did talk earlier on that, you know, you've made films, you write stuff. You kind of said earlier that this movie almost starts off like you feel like it's a buddy comedy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
This feels like The Odd Couple meets the devil sometimes. Like it's like they have like they're like back and forth. There's a Spaceballs reference tossed in there.
Right. May the Schwartz be with you.
Like they're like going back and forth at the point where he's like, what are you doing in line when they're at the movie theater? And he's like, getting lemon heads, although taking confession from all those kids, but I don't know if it's that or the weed. It's made me addicted to the things. I got to get my lemon heads. I'm like, what is this? Like, so it was like a lot of stuff like that. And it was funny, but then I was like, what's happening here? Is this going to get serious, or are they going to like laugh their way through like all these like, you know, possessions at some point?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was, but I mean, we recorded an episode this morning, Mike and I told him about the monologue, and I'm like, that's a monologue that I can see people using at auditions, like as their sides. And like people would be like, oh my God, where'd you get that from? And you'd be like, Exorcist 3. And they'd be like, what? Like, so it's like one of those like out of nowhere and he's like, the monologue's funny, but he delivers it so well. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm like, why is he killing this carp monologue in the middle of Exorcist 3?
Yeah, it is a good moment. Things don't really get too serious until they have a conversation at lunch that, you know, he kind of tells Dyer about these murders that are happening and how he, you know, had a relationship with this boy, at the very least knew who he was, you know, a 12-year-old kid who was in like the police auxiliary youth league. And they have a conversation about, you know, what is this all about? And Dyer's like, you know, we're spirits, we're going to live forever. And Kinderman doesn't necessarily believe that. So you kind of see their friendship from both ends. Dyer eventually ends up in the hospital. Kinderman goes sees him. We never have time to find out because, spoiler alert, he gets killed in the hospital. But we have a nice little moment with them where, you know, they're, again, more comedy stuff. Get me newer magazines. He brings him a little stuffed penguin. In the director's cut, so we see a scene in this one that's like 1 second long where a nurse screams out, "Who stuck this man?" Okay. In the director's cut, she comes in to give him a needle, an injection of something. And he's like, "Oh, I already had it." And she starts like swearing. She's like, "Fucking mother." She's just going off. And then she goes to the door and yells that out. So it makes more sense there.
Yeah.
But I have a question for both of you. Life is different in 2025 than it was in 1990. We know that.
Yep.
Was there ever a point where you could just light up a cigarette in a hospital bed?
Yeah, apparently.
I think so. Yeah, I was just telling my kids the other day about lighting up cigarettes at work and in restaurants and airplanes.
I'm old enough. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I mean I remember in the episode Mad Men when they go to visit their practitioner, the doctor's just like, all right, so you know you're looking pretty good. You just stay healthy. And like he's ripping a cigarette right there. So I mean this is probably obviously towards the tail end of all that. Like it's kind of that kind of stuff's coming to the end. But yeah, it's pretty wild when he's even like the doctor himself, who's like a chain smoker, clearly.
Yeah.
Like he is going crazy. Yeah, he's like when they were in his office. And there's the portrait of him behind him, and his arm crossed. I'm like, why does he have a cigarette in his hand? Like, it would have been like if he was just like smoking in that portrait. That'd have been perfect.
I'm old enough to remember going on planes when I was a kid with my family to like Disney or whatever, and that there was, you know, cigarette ashtrays in the seat, you know, handle on the armchairs. But like, I just thought that like that would be the be all end all, because when he lights the cigarette up and the nurse walks in, I'm like, oh, she's going to tell him to put that out, and she doesn't. She's like, is this room 409? He's like, nope, 411. She's like, okay, see you later, bye. And I'm like, holy shit.
How does the nurse not know it's not the same room?
Yeah, well, she gets hers. So,
oh, is that the same one? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like when he says later on when he's like some scraps from the table, the master's leaving me. Like a little gift. Yeah.
Yep. Kinderman goes home. and he has a weird dream in Grand Central Station where everybody is an angel of some sort. He sees Thomas, the young boy, and he's, I mean, it's an earnest line reading, but he says, "I'm so sorry you got murdered, Thomas. And I miss you." It's almost funny, but it's, it's taken seriously too. And he's holding the kid's hand, and then he sees the father that was killed in the confessional. And then he sees Father Dyer, who he just left in the hospital a few hours ago. And he says to him, "Are we both dreaming this?" And Father Dyer says, "I'm not dreaming." And he's got the head with the staples there. So then we get a cool shot of, from outside of Kinderman's house. He gets a phone call and, he says, "What are you telling me?" And then we see what they're telling him. Manster, what's the crime scene look like for this one?
The crime scene is the hospital room, and you just got a sheet over the bed and a whole bunch of little jars on a table. And all his blood was drained and put so neatly in those jars that there's not even a smudge on the glass. And then we find out there's also writing in blood on the wall with the signature double L from the Gemini Killer.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life, which is a reference to the film that they went to see in the movie theaters. So we find out, there's my dog. So we find out that this is something, like Master just said, that also ties in to the Gemini Killer. I just want to throw this out there because it drove me nuts both times I watched this movie until I looked it up here before we got on. The guy who plays one of George C. Scott's lieutenants, the guy, the black hair with the beard, the guy that has more lines. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah. He's a character actor, but why do I know him from one thing in particular? Field, can you think of one thing?
Oh, God. Put me on the spot here.
Okay, so if you don't know it,
he's very familiar, and I think he's much heavier now. But I know he's somebody.
He's Marty McFly's grandfather in 1955. That's with the TV and talking about the honeymooners. And I'm like, fuck, that drove me nuts. Drove me nuts. And I meant to look it up the other night. And I forgot. So now we've had these murders and all of this is happening. Eventually, what sends him to the hospital where all of the old people are and then the ward? Why does he go there? That's the hospital that Dyer's killed in. And he starts to, but what sends him to that ward?
Oh, shit. Oh, man. Well, he's talking to patients. He's talking to nurses.
I remember. It came to me. He's talking to the 52-year-old nurse, and she says that she found one of the patients unconscious.
Okay.
Near Dyer's room at the same time. So he goes and speaks to her, and we get this scene that's like this ward where it's all people that are probably Alzheimer's, dementia patients, or
disturbed ward.
Disturbed.
No, there's two wards. Right. No, the ward that he first talks to is Alzheimer's, and then he's like autism. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe not so much, guy. Maybe we no. And then they were like, "This is the disturbed ward." Then they go to with the door and the keypad. That's like the secondary ward. Yeah.
I love when he describes to him how the keypad for the disturbed ward works. It's just a keypad. He's like, you think he's going to tell him something earth shattering. He's like, punch in a 4-digit code. Oh, you mean
changes every day?
Yeah. Wow. This is 1990 technology.
Just want Kinderman to go like, I don't care. Just let's go.
Yeah. So when we're in the ward with all the people that seem to have, the older people generally, we get a lot of scenes that make sense later in the movie where it seems like they're listening to things, and one woman's talking about a radio and voices on the radio. Well, at the beginning, you tend to think this is just older, sick people, living out like their fantasies. We kind of find out it's more than that later on. But when he goes to the disturbed ward, as he's walking through, he hears somebody call his name. In the scenes in the version called Legion, the first version, when they do eventually get into the cell that is housing the Gemini Killer / Damien Karras, whatever you want to call him, it is a old school stone ground cell, very like wet looking. In this version, it's like a padded room almost, much cleaner looking, much more. Yeah. So they had to refilm it all in a different spot. And so if you see that, you'll notice that difference. But he does go into one of these rooms eventually. We'll kind of move through a little bit. And he's convinced that the guy in the cell is Damien Karras. And it makes way more sense in this version, because when we finally do see him, it's Jason Miller. Same thing happens in Legion. He's convinced it's Damian Karras, but we see Brad Dourif. But we're supposed to use our recasting brain to say, oh, that's what, you know. So a little confusing if you're not paying full attention.
Confused watching. I was confused watching it because I was like, wait a minute, that's him. Like, no, that's Brad Dourif. No, what is happening?
Yeah, I think Brad Dourif is supposed to play strictly the Gemini Killer in the theatrical version. And then we're just seeing him because, you know, they hired Brad Dourif to do this part. So
I want to ask you guys, the scene in the church when he's talking to him, the guy, it's the other priest, or it's a different priest. I don't know. And he hears the door opens and he sees the paper flutter and that whole scene.
Yeah.
Does that scene come before he sees Karras in the cell? Does that scene come before that?
I don't remember.
Hold on. I think it's after. You're talking about when he sees Father Riley, and Riley sort of tells him to about Father Mourning. Yeah, I think where he sees Karras is before that.
Okay, because what threw me was they're sitting there drinking, and the father goes, maybe it's that thing that happened 15 years ago, the exorcism happened, and I'm just like, really? We're just going to connect it to that? But if he saw Karras, then that makes sense.
Right. And that scene is in the original cut of it, but there's no talk about the exorcism 15 years ago. There's no talk about Father Mourning. They just have a conversation that mostly revolves around, okay, so in the original cut, there's a scene where when he sees Brad Dourif, and that's to him as Karras, he has Karras's body exhumed. And in that coffin, they find a really old, large, tall priest, which they do mention in this version. In the other version, the original, when he's talking to Father Riley, they talk about how that priest had gone missing. They just thought that he was in bad health and that he just eventually kind of like went off and left the order or whatever.
He just disappeared. We forgot about him. Don't worry about him.
Yeah, they just like, we could never find him. In this version, well, and actually in both versions, but heavier in the original version, there's a very long scene in the scene where he's talking to the Gemini Killer, where the Gemini Killer is talking about how when Karras fell out the window, it was the same night that he was electrocuted for his crimes. And he floats out of the body, and he calls him the Master, but it's Pazuzu, puts him into Karras's body, okay, to as revenge for the exorcism. Now, what he says happens is that he says, I entered the body, but his brain was jelly, and they buried me. The father who went missing that ended up in the coffin was the priest that was watching over the burial. And he says, you know, I don't know if he says it in this version or not, but he says, you should have seen his face when I popped out of that grave.
Yeah.
So he pops out of the grave and throws him in there. But we find out then it takes him 15 years to be able to do anything.
That was a lot of exposition for a third act.
It's longer in the original version.
Oh my God. I'm like, I mean, it's great, but I'm like, can we wrap this up? We're at the end here.
Yeah, I agree. The placement in the original version is more towards the middle, but it's longer. The scene and all of the Brad Dourif footage in the cell is that shitty footage. It sounds fine, but it doesn't look good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about the fact that we're supposed to believe that Karras was 27 years old in the original Exorcist when he's like, oh, I knew when he was 27. What? He's 27 in The Exorcist? No way.
They aged differently back then, Mike. They aged differently back then.
No way.
Manster, we eventually meet the added-on character of Father Mourning. What's his backstory? Because Father Riley tells him his backstory. What is his backstory, and what is he doing in his little priest apartment?
Didn't he handle some exorcism in the Philippines that basically turned his hair white?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't remember details, but I just remember that.
There were none. What you just said is what they said. He handled an exorcism.
Isn't it the opening scene? Oh no, I'm thinking of the heretic. Never mind.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, and he's tending to a bird that's been wounded that, broke its wing and he's trying to care for it, but it died. He's got a bird in the box, and then he ends up knocking over, his crucifix knocks over and starts crying blood, as they would. Because his scenes are all filmed kind of separately, his stuff is all solitary, and there's very little of it. But we see that obviously he has suddenly become aware that there's something wrong with the Force, and he's got to jump in. He's got to jump in and do something.
The Schwartz. I think it's around this time too that we hear of all the little connective tissue between the killings and the past, right?
Yes.
Seeing Dr. Riley.
Right. Who we find out Dr. Riley
not Dr. Riley. Father Riley.
Father Riley. Right. We find out the exorcism 15 years ago and all the stuff that we were talking about before. Meanwhile, we also have this really weird scene where the Scott Wilson character is practicing like a monologue off a yellow piece of paper. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I imagine he was possessed at that point, right?
I don't know.
I don't know what was happening.
I think
he goes
that's
back
just
to the
him.
room and he's sitting in there all drugged out, dead or something. Like, what
Well,
happens to him after that?
So I think what happened was, they make it kind of clear, at least in the original version. I'm not sure in the theatrical because it's blending in now. He is working for Pazuzu, Gemini Killer, Karis.
Oh.
And he's brought Kinderman into this, right? Because, I guess Pazuzu wants some form, I don't know, revenge against him. I don't know why he's brought him into this.
He says revenge.
Yeah.
He says revenge at some point.
Right. So drug that keeps getting used for all these victims, succinol colate, which I watch.
Oh, I'm glad you could say it.
I watch a lot of true crime stuff. That's real shit. Multiple episodes of like Forensic Files talk about how people have killed people with that stuff, but too little will just paralyze you. Too much will kill you. So all these killings, whoever's been killing all these people gives them that. They can't move. Their breathing eventually kills them. It stops and kills them. Their what do they say? Their
attacks their lungs. Yeah, attacks their lungs.
It attacks their lungs. So like when they're getting chopped up and everything, they're still alive. Gemini Killer eventually has a line where he says, the human head can see for 20 seconds, and I would love to take my little liberties with their bodies at that point. But yeah, eventually the Scott Wilson character is found dead from overdosing on that stuff. So I'm assuming Gemini ends up killing him. Now, at one point during the very long monologue that these two have, or the very long discussion these two have, Gemini Killer is kind of dropping hints. One of the hints is he keeps mentioning dance to Kinderman, and even though I figured it out before Kinderman did, his daughter, they've mentioned his daughter's dance class 17 times by this point in this movie. And he keeps on referencing dancing, and Kinderman's like, I don't get it. I'm thinking to myself, he's going for the daughter. Even though I've seen this before, I haven't seen it in a while. He's going for the daughter. And also Kinderman's like, how are you doing this? You're in this cell. Everybody is saying you're in this cell. And he mentions he has friends that are doing it. And then he says, old friends. Old friends are doing all of this. So now it's starting to make sense what these people are hearing on these radios and everything. And we're all catching up to that. Got to talk about this because I flat out, when I watched this the other night with my girlfriend, I told her, in my opinion, the greatest jump scare in horror movie history, probably.
Oh.
If it's not the best, it's top 5 easily. I saw this movie in 1990 in the theaters. I didn't see it again until probably 2016 or 2017 or 2018. I always remembered that scene. I always remember it's coming. So we get this very long shot in the ward where it's a nurse and a couple of cops. Mike, as a filmmaker, I'm just curious because I don't see things the same way you do, obviously.
Sure.
What did you think of this whole shot and the composition, how it all works out with her going between the rooms?
I was going to say, so just the shot itself? Well, the shot is there it builds tension. So something's coming. That you're keeping an eye on the nurse and where she's going. So that something's up. You see the cops, but then you see the cops keep leaving and then you're like, oh, what's happening? Why are they leaving? Oh, they're back. Okay. Like when they leave when she's alone and then which jump scare are you talking about? The first one or the second one?
The second one. So the first one is it's a great setup because we build tension up while she's looking through the room. The ice cracks in the water. And then is that a patient or a doctor sleeping? like resting. Is
Oh,
that a
I
patient?
thought it was a patient. No, because he's like, you wake me up at 5, 5 in the morning to eat, like, or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
He complains about that. So, which is true. It stinks.
Yeah. He pops up from the bed and we think that is like the automatic like release that we're supposed to get in the scene, right? I mean, that's what it was set up
Yeah.
for. But then we go back out to the hallway shot. And again, we see her going between the rooms and back to her desk. And the two cops just start floating around until what happens, Master?
So the nurse goes in to check on a room, and she goes in there. She opens the door, I think, closes it, goes back in, locks the door, turns around, puts her back to the door, and walks across the hallway. But immediately, like, it's so immediate, a nurse, what would you call whatever comes out? Like, one of the
nun?
patients, possessed patient,
The white
something,
sheet.
whatever.
Yeah.
The white sheet.
Just comes out behind her through a locked door. So, like, opens the door that was just locked with no effort at all. It just comes behind with those shears that we were introduced to earlier, and just right behind. You don't actually see anything, but you could see her actually like starting to close it as the nurse is out of the scene at that point. So,
Right.
and it's just so immediate. That's what makes it so good. Because you're not expecting something to come from behind her. You're
Yeah.
expecting something to come from in front of her.
I love that. I think that's great. And what really works it for me is it's a long shot. And as soon as she walks out and the form walks behind her, it zooms in and the music stings. And then you don't see anything. We just go to the next, the next investigation.
Oh, the very
scene.
next scene is the statue with the head chopped off.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That head chopped off was in the beginning too, right? That's the same one that Kinderman just completely missed when he goes into the elevator.
He did.
Yeah.
He goes in the elevator and one of the statues of Jesus' head next to the elevator has no head. And he's not a great cop because, like I said, I figured out that this thing wants to kill his daughter and he doesn't get it. He now ends up. How does he figure out? Okay.
So, well, here's the thing. You just talked about the nurse scene, but there's a whole scene with Karras and Brad Dourif and Kinderman before that scene.
What's the point though where he realizes that? So we get a scene where he goes back to investigate the nurse's death, I believe.
Yeah.
And he goes into the room again with all of like the Alzheimer patients and everybody. And then we get Spider-Man.
Oh,
we
is
get
that the spider lady?
the spider
That's a nice
lady.
shot, though.
It isn't.
Because yeah,
The way
You don't
she's
like that
moving.
shot?
No, I love it. The way she's moving.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
creepy as hell. And she's like, that shot where it's like from her angle with her head tilted down and she's like kind of
Yeah.
smirking.
Yeah.
When do we figure out that they're heading to his house?
After he has another run-in with Karras / Gemini killer.
Okay.
And that's when he talks about the master and how he came out of the Pazuzu thing. And then he figures out after that they're going to get one of the elderly patients to go to his house.
Okay.
It's right after that scene. Those scenes where he's in there, right, and he's first talking to Karras, and even that's creepy, right? The way Karras is talking and nonchalantly, and the voice and the guttural sounds that are in the background of those scenes.
Yeah.
And then you get the Brad Dourif because Brad Dourif gets upset, and so he comes forward.
Yeah. In the original version where it's just Brad Dourif, he does multiple things with his vocalizations. It's clearly sound effects, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
At one point, he makes a train sound, like a like, but it's a choo-choo. It's an actual train sound. And then he makes a horse neigh when he's talking to him. And, at this point, like, if you're Kinderman, you can't think anything other than this is supernatural, like, because he's making these real sounds come out of his body.
Right. He sings like a little girl at one point.
He does that in the original version too, same song.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's talking about how he loves like theatricality and everything. It's actually interesting to watch both again because there are lines that Jason Miller gives out as that character that you saw in the original version Brad Dourif do. So, just interesting little differences. So eventually he figures out that someone's heading to his house. Now we flip to his house, his mother-in-law, his wife, who's constantly cooking. Every scene she's in, she's making a sauce or cutting a carrot. And the daughter are hanging out there. and she gets a phone call and she's like, oh, Bill. Okay. And then she tells everybody, well, that was your father. A nurse is coming over to deliver a package. But we see Kinderman trying to call home to warn her, and it's busy signal. So we know that it's somebody, Pazuzu, using his voice to trick them. So he gets one of the younger cops to drive him home, and it's a bunch of George C. Scott yelling at traffic like, God damn it, and stuff like that. They finally get home. He busts in, and the wife is like, what kind of nurse is this? Like, as soon as she walked in, she passed out, and then she said that she needed to go to bed. And it's kind of a Mexican standoff because he's seen this patient before, but now she's an older lady dressed like a nurse. Yeah. She's sitting
she even says, like, help me at one point.
She's sitting at the dinner table, kind of innocent looking. And then she slowly reaches into her bag. Mike, what does she pull out?
She pulls out those shears, those spring loaded, I guess they're medical shears. They're huge.
They're meant to cut off a head.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those are the Headlopper 9000s. That's what they are. And she goes for the daughter. It took me 2 viewings separately of this movie, and I still couldn't realize it until I had to ask my girlfriend who pulled her away. It was the grandmother.
Oh, you didn't realize that?
No, I didn't. I'm like, how? Because Kinderman's here, the mother's making a nice sauce over here. The lady's trying to kill the daughter, and then like we have this really weird shot. Like, I don't know if it's the effects or whatnot, but like of the loppers going around the head and then the daughter's body being pulled, it all looks very strange.
Right? She grabs her by the hair?
She grabs her a head of hair and just pulls her.
Yeah.
It's like cartoony looking the way she pulls her. It's almost like she stretches or something.
It's terrible. It does not look good. But that happens, and then I don't know. Do we even show how that ends? She jacks Kinderman up. She throws him. The nurse throws him up against his fireplace, and she's choking him out.
Choking him, and then she like fades away because I guess Pazuzu goes back into Karis because the priest shows up at the end, like he's there, like he's at the Guns of Navarone, and he's just like, I'm here, let's go, let's exorcise something.
So
I think what happens is when Father Morning goes to the cell, everything with the patient just like cuts right off because his presence in the cell interrupts whatever possession is going on.
Now, in the original movie, in the Legion version, we'll jump to what happens in this one. This is the end of the movie. The nurse goes to the house, and same thing. I can't remember what happens, but he gets away from her. Kinderman drives back to the asylum or the hospital. He goes into the cell by himself. He goes into the cell where Gemini Killer Brad Dourif Pazuzu is. And he says, pray for me, Damien, talking to Father Karras. He pulls his gun out and he shoots him to death right there. And literally shoots him to death. And then we see the son, which we get a shot of towards the end of this. And then the credits. That's how the movie ends, is he shoots him, kills him. And then, because there's no exorcism to be had.
So that's it in that one. Okay.
That's it in that one. But in this one, Manster, we got Father Morning, and he's going full bore exorcism, and we get the typical exorcism battle. Pazuzu, Karras, whatever, starts to levitate him and throw him against the ceiling. Mike, why don't you talk us out of the end of this, where this exorcism is happening?
How does he get down? He tells him to fight. He's yelling, Damien, I know you're in there. And he comes out, and then Damien pushes through, and gains control and tells him to shoot him now, like to kill him now, which you're going to have to explain to me how this works. And then he does, he shoots him, and then he ends up taking that, which I think the gun got bigger from the last scene to the end scene, takes the gun and puts it to his head and pulls the trigger. And then that cuts to that son that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just basically, it's just it's a lot of the same old, you're in there, I know you could do it, get control. And he does. And then he kills him. So
yeah.
And that's it.
Father Morning ends up dying from his wounds, right? He's dead when Kinderman gets there, right? Or he's fucked up.
I think everybody in the cell's dead, right?
His face is like,
there too.
Yeah, it's some weird, because he was stuck on the ceiling and his face started peeling off, and his torso, the skin on his torso.
Yeah, it's almost like, why did I do this?
All a big mess.
Why did I come here? Yeah, exactly.
Why did I come here? Because the studio
Why do I
demanded an
bother?
exorcism.
Yeah.
Studio said there had to be an exorcism in an Exorcist movie. So Kinderman kills Damien Karras. Supposedly he's going to rest now. Again, why doesn't Pazuzu just fly into somebody else's mouth? Who knows? Very much like the end of the first movie to this one. And then the last scene is we see Kinderman and his partner standing while they're reburying or actually burying Karras's corpse, 27-year-old corpse.
But it said 40, like he was 40.
Yeah, and it also said his original, his death date was original as well. It said,
right.
Yeah. So it's like as if he died for this first time. So, all right, that's The Exorcist 3. We've talked about it. We've pontificated about it. Let's get into the box office of this one.
All you care about is money.
All right, so this was released on August 17th of 1990. Here are the top 5 films.
Oh, you're doing the box. Good.
Oh, okay. I thought I was.
No.
All right.
Don't fight, guys. Don't fight.
We're not going to fight. No fights. Number 5 that weekend, it had made $6.1 million, and it was out for 4 weeks. Harrison Ford with one of those Caesar haircuts, Presumed Innocent, which I think, didn't they just make that into like a mini series on Apple? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Jake Gyllenhaal. They're good. I think there's a season 2.
Oh, okay. Number 4 opened that week. It made $6.2 million. I watched this a few years ago for the first time in a long time, and it's actually a really good movie. It is the comedy version of Goodfellas. It's My Blue Heaven.
Oh, right. Yep.
Steve Martin.
Very good.
Great scene where he's in the suburbs of, like, I don't know, it might have been Connecticut because they're near New York. And the guy in the grocery store is like, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" "Fuck you." Number 3, out for 2 weeks, $7.0 million. Flatliners. Haven't seen that in a long time. Number 2, out for 6 weeks, $8.3 million. This movie was a juggernaut in 1990. Winner of the Best Supporting Actress Oscar field. What movie is it?
What time of year are we?
1990.
No, what time of year?
Oh, it's August.
Oh, okay. Supporting actress, 1990. Oh man. My cousin Vinny.
Movie.
No,
I know.
Well, you know, because you did the box office as well. You cheating piece of shit.
Yeah, but your numbers are all different than mine. That's all right.
All right. Well, what movie is it?
What is it?
Was it Ghost?
It's Ghost.
All right.
It's Ghost. And then opening at number 1, strong opening for a summer film that is a horror, police procedural, buddy comedy at $9.3 million. The Exorcist 3. The Exorcist 3. All right. Let's rate this fucking thing.
Oh boy.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll. Bring the noise.
0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever, 1/4.5 scale optional. Before we go, I've got some of the Pint Insiders. Go to Patreon/thepint. $2.50 a month will get you 2 extra episodes every month. And these folks did that, and we're going to read off what they said. All right. Beautiful Bob Howard. He says, I would give this a 4. Definitely. It's right up there with the original and scares. Probably the best jump scare in horror easily. All right. Good opinion, Bob.
You told him to say that.
I did not. Our good buddy Patrick Flanagan gives it a 3.75. The tone veers all over the place, but the scary parts are very effective. Officer Mike Simonetta, 4.25. A great sequel that is criminally underseen after the insanity that was Exorcist Part 2. The redheaded... I saw it once. I hated it. I did not like that.
Never saw it. Redheaded
stranger Laura. She gives it a 4 and very simply says, I have nightmares about the old lady nurse sometimes. You're going to have more nightmares knowing she's only 52. And then our good friend Eric, the Hot Coffee Lawsuit, gives it 3.75 Patrick Ewings. So nice. pretty strong. We go from 3.75 being the lowest to a 4.25. Let's go over to the Manster and find out.
I want to hear what Field says.
All right.
Oh boy.
Manster's choice
first.
I like making Field do this, by the way, because on Forgotten Cinema, if you're not a listener, you should be. They don't rate stuff.
They don't rate them.
They don't rate stuff. So I like making them rate stuff.
But they gotta know to rate.
Discussion podcast. Yeah. Well, everyone's everything's subjective, but I would say how about a solid 3? I'll give it a solid 3 for the carp scene, for the carp monologue. I think Brad Dourif's doing a lot of really cool stuff. But it's just in a weird place in the movie in the third act. You know what I mean? I know, like it's a reveal, so you kind of have to have it there. But I would say that stuff's good. I kind of like George C. Scott in this film. I always like it when you're watching a movie that, yes, there's a lot of strange stuff happening and a lot of stuff that you're all reacting to. You're just like, oh my God, but like they're taking it seriously. Like, George C. Scott coming into this felt like it just like he was just taking this role seriously. He was into it. So, and I thought it's a nice sequel to the first one, even though there's some, we talked about how there's some things that were a little kind of like, just okay, like a little off, but I enjoy it. So I'll give it a solid 3. So yeah, there you go. 3.
All right.
3.0.
You know what, Manster? No, I'm going to go. I'm gonna
go last.
You didn't want to go first. You didn't want to go first. You can go last.
All right.
If you're not first, you're last, Manster.
That's right. I'm going to give this a 3.5, a 3.5. I've always liked this. I think it's very solid. George C. Scott is great in this. Ed Flanders, who plays Father Dyer, is very good in this. Brad Dourif is awesome. And I think he's actually better in the Legion cut, but I'm not basing it on this, but I do say if you ever have a chance to watch it, it's interesting to see all the weird little differences and the casting and stuff. I don't know, watching this in the past, if I ever would have been so aware of how out of place the exorcism bits are in this, but now knowing that it was all tacked on at the end, it feels very tacked on at the end. You start to realize, you're like, wow, this Father Morning character doesn't interact with anybody else in the movie for the most part. That's because he filmed his shit like a year after they made the movie. They brought him in, they filmed that one scene, you get a couple scenes with him, and then they reshot the ending with George C. Scott and Jason Miller and everything. But I do truly think that this is very easily probably, again, if not the best, one of the best jump scares in any horror movie ever. I do agree with Patrick. The tone, as we talked about, is kind of all over the place. It starts off feeling one way, but like the dark stuff is very dark. Little kid gets killed, priests getting killed. The scene in the confessional booth with the killer like taunting, and you never see the killer. You don't see how the priest is killed. That's even creepier in my mind. So I think this is good. I think, this is all horror October, but this could fit a lot of genres. This could be a thriller. It's kind of a cop movie at points. But I do enjoy this one, so I'm going to go with a 3.5. All right, Manster, you're allowed to talk now. What do you got?
You're right. It's like a whole bunch of different things mashed together. It's got, psychological thriller, detective noir, buddy cop, horror in the first 2 acts, but then it shifts to, the tone is totally different with the exorcism, the studio mandated stuff, the extra scenes. So it loses there. But I think the performances by George C. Scott and Brad Dourif especially are fantastic. I love the funny little bits that are added, like "May the Schwartz be with you," and then the way the way George C. Scott looks at him after he says that. No words are said, but he just gives him a look. The carp scene is exceptional. But I've never seen Brad Dourif deliver something as powerful as this. It really makes you think. There, it's got the themes good versus evil in a godless world and all that stuff. Damn, this was a good performance by him. And it's got a flawed ending, but I think it's still pretty good. I never saw The Heretic or Exorcist II, and the only time I had ever seen this movie before was at Scary Larry's. The first time I saw Exorcist III was that, and it blew me away there. So I still think it's great. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
All right.
Wow.
All right. We run the gamut.
Nice.
3.5, and 4.
Have you guys seen The Exorcism from 2024 with Russell Crowe? Have you seen that? Do you know about that movie?
That's the one about the making of The Exorcist?
Yeah, he's playing the actor who plays Damien Karras. He's playing his son, playing his role in The Exorcist. So then it ends where he thinks that he's getting possessed, and it ends actually they're in a recreation of the bedroom from The Exorcist. It's actually not that bad. And the Pope's Exorcist, I'm going to throw that out there too.
Oh, that one's great. I like that a lot.
But yeah, because The Exorcism connected to it a little bit, so I thought that was good.
Yeah, I was curious about that one. I did not see it, and I thought it was weird that Russell Crowe was in two
I know.
non-related exorcism movies. Like, how many exorcism movies come out at all? And then Russell Crowe's like, "This is me new thing now, Mike." You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm all about him.
Cash that check. Cash that check.
Cash it up, Russell. Cash it up. All right, you guys know where to find the pint. All month long, we'll be talking about horror movies like we did today. But let's flip it over to Mike Field. Tell everybody about your show. Tell everybody about the lineup for your Forgotten Horror number 7.
Oh boy. All right. Yeah. So the main show is called Forgotten Cinema. We cover a new movie every week. Every Wednesday, I have a new show. We do have a couple. We do now showings where we cover like a newer film. I think we just did our first now showing for TV. We did the Alien Earth TV series. We also do a lead up series, which kind of leads. We look back at older films, kind of like in the sequels. We did all the aliens, which is why we did Alien Earth. And so, but for October, we're doing Forgotten Horror, which is pretty much like you guys are doing, all horror films, every Wednesday. So there's 5 Wednesdays in the month, and then we're doing one that's going to come out on Halloween. What is our first film? Oh, we're doing New Nightmare. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is our first movie. We do Dead Alive or Brain Dead, whichever however you want to call it. We do Life Force, Tobe Hooper film. We're doing Let the Right One In, the original, not the remake, not Let Me In, because I like the original better. So we're doing Let the Right One In. We're actually almost done recording them. Currently, as we're doing this, Mike is on his way to Universal to do his annual Halloween Horror Nights visit. So he'll be down there celebrate. He had to watch all the Terrifiers for that. Yeah, so it's I know. So it's Forgotten Horror, month of October, and then new episodes every Wednesday, and we're just kind of trucking along. You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPod.com. You can find us at YouTube at Forgotten Cinema. We obviously are on all the socials. I just started a Reddit, which I don't know why I did, but I did. So we're everywhere. So come by, check it out. Tell us how bad we are. That's fine too.
Oh, they're great. One of my favorite podcasts. And I will suggest to listeners, as I mentioned, it's Forgotten Horror 7. So start flipping through the last few seasons. And, if you're looking for all the horror content in October, and let's admit, everybody loves that shit, jump in there. Jump in and check out movies they've done in the past. So, yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. All right.
It's been a lot of movies.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'll be over, we'll be over tomorrow night for that carp dinner. All
right, let's go. You can come over, but I'm going to deliver the monologue to you. So you're going to have to listen to the monologue.
Yeah, you got to stand half an inch in my face too. Yeah.
If I see it swimming, I'll kill it.
It's gills moving.
It's gills moving.
He just does like a breathe in thing. He's like,
you're close to me, Father, so you can smell me, right?
Yeah. And if you look at Flanders in that scene, he's, I think, trying not to laugh.
He's trying to hold it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good. All right, Master, say the words.
May the Schwartz be with you.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!